This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. This podcast is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you're looking for help, seek out a qualified medical services provider or other healthcare professional. Welcome to the Live Your Yoga podcast, a podcast dedicated to discovering and sharing all the ways in which yoga can be lived off the mat. Real stories by real people, just like you.
Welcome back to the Live Your Yoga podcast. I'm Salla, a yoga teacher with Your Yoga Flow online studio, and today we are going deep. I'm joined by the brilliant and heartful Dr. Cindi Saj, a woman who wears many hats and wears them with grounded grace. She's a top therapist, best-selling author, university instructor, yoga teacher, and a fierce believer in the healing power of turning inward. In this episode, we're leaning into a big question, one that whispers to us when things don't go according to plan. Can we trust the grand unfolding of our lives? When control slips through our fingers, when clarity is nowhere to be found, when life delivers detours instead of destinations. Whether you're navigating change, rebuilding, or craving a deeper sense of trust, Dr. Cindi brings the perfect blend of science, soul, and storytelling. Cindi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And that's such a great, warm welcoming. So my pleasure to be here. And thank you very much for the introduction.
Oh, brilliant. Let's begin. You have danced between worlds, therapy, academia, yoga. What connects all of those threads for you? What's the through line in everything that you do?
Yes, I feel like it is just adding everything I love in life. I absolutely love learning, and I love learning about learning, and I love learning about the things that kind of fill my soul with passion. And, movement I've found is medicine, right? As much as I've been in school and sitting and kind of, hearing information told to me, I realize that to me, my happiest version of myself is through movement. And so, as I'm learning all these things, I've learned the more I learn, the less I know. And what I do know is how I feel good, and I feel good through movement. So when I'm looking at this integration of academic knowledge or sitting in the classroom and getting told, great ways to heal and to move and move through trauma or move through breakups or move through heartbreak or move through anxiety, there is that theme of movement. And that's kind of where, to me, the threads align where, with therapy, with any healing journey, I found my path is through movement. And that's kind of where the yoga ties into this all and how I can kind of integrate this idea of therapy, academics, and yoga.
That's beautiful. And I totally get it from how you just described that. I'm like, I see this. I see what you're saying. I have a spin-off question here, and this is really about where we are as a collective in the world today. I would love your sort of expert opinion on, are we where we've forever been? It's just that everybody has their time and space when they have these big experiences, some of them you listed. Or are we at a particularly either sensitive, or is there another word, time and place in the world? What has your experience sort of offered you now that you've really had a lens on that for a while?
That's a great question. And this idea of collective, as a society, we are so connected by, social media, by TV, by, getting information quickly from various sources that we feel like we're collective. But in that journey of feeling like collective, we're also very lonely. Like we're kind of feeling very isolated in different ways. There is a term called the human experience, or this idea of a common human experience, knowing that we're all going to have, different experience in our life that connect us as humans. And so your question is, are we exactly where we are feeling more connected to each other, or are we feeling more that we're doing this life alone and we're all just kind of hitting different barriers? It's an and, this idea that, we are all, experiencing, whether it's war, whether it's political, stressors, whether it is, the death of a loved one, whether it is the birth of a loved one, whether it is, there's so many things that as a human, we all experience, but everyone's journey down that road is going to look different. Sometimes we feel connected because we can go online and we can, seek others who are experiencing what we're experiencing. But then even this idea that no one ever knows our journey. One of the big things that I never say in counseling is I understand, because I will never understand your grief. I will never understand how it feels to be you. But we have this empathy, this common experience of wanting to kind of connect through the understanding of what we feel to others. And so I'm not sure if I'm really answering your question or if I can answer your question, but we are connected. We are a collective. We are all on our own journey. But luckily, there are people that make us feel not so alone and that are there to show up when we are feeling like we're the only ones in the world who experience what we're experiencing.
Stunning answer. I'm up for any answer, Cindi. I think these questions are interesting to ask and interesting to listen to.
And it's always, like I said, like the more I learn, the less I know. And so really, the more I'm meeting with people, the more I'm working as a counselor, I just see so much resiliency and tenacity and love in the world. But I also see so much hurt and so much pain and so much suffering. So, it is and in the world right now, where there is a lot of good and there's a lot of pain.
And that is epic. Let's cover this idea of trusting the unfolding. So it sounds poetic. I mean, any poets out there? Probably a nice starting phrase to bring something creative into mind. But that trusting the unfolding is not always easy. And so I'm super interested to discover, if you're happy to share, what this phrase means to you on a lived personal level.
Yeah. And speaking from, I do have my PhD in social work. I am a trained counselor. I do have a lot of, academic knowledge. I have a lot of life knowledge. But still, sometimes life will throw me curveballs. I'm in the process of a separation and I didn't see this coming. And so even with all the knowledge that I have, it's kind of like, holy, like, how did I not know that this marriage wasn't going well? How did I not know as a counselor with all these tools and skills that I've learned not to kind of, look inward or kind of look around myself and see this. And no one prepares you for the curveballs that life throws. No one prepares you to know what's going to happen or when, a loved one's going to pass away, or to know when, you might lose your job, or like, who knows? There's so many unknowns in the world. And that's where it really is trusting the unfolding and trusting in that, hey, you know what? We're all here to actually live a good life. There's no one here who does not deserve happiness, who does not deserve to feel loved, who does not deserve to have a good, abundant life, of whether that is health and love and just like, beauty in life. Like, we're all worthy of that. And so when we say trusting the unfolding, it really is like life isn't always going to be, rainbows and butterflies and puppy dogs. But that there is always rainbows, sunshine, and puppy dogs, right? It's there, but it doesn't always feel like it's going to show up. So when we trust the unfolding, it really is, we'll never appreciate the light unless we're in the dark. We'll never appreciate love unless we feel pain and sad and suffering and hurt and hate. We can never know that balance or the duality of the good and the bad unless we're kind of through the process that doesn't always feel so good. So by trusting the process, trusting the unfolding, it really is this idea of trusting the process, trusting that the good will prevail, will come out of it, but it doesn't always look that way. The greatest saying is, this too shall pass. And that's for everything, whether it is a really great day, knowing that this moment will pass, or whether it's a really horrible day, this too shall pass.
I'm super interested because I know you're Reiki trained. Mm-hmm. Is that, yeah. If you feel comfortable and if it's a topic you enjoy delving into, because we have so many listeners that are exploring and or trained in various different modalities of connectedness. I would use that word for it, really. Like how do you find that beautiful practices like Reiki or other, if, I don't know so much about you, Cindi. So, I'm pulling things I know, but I mean, if you want to dive in and share things that you're comfortable with our listeners, because I know that in these spaces, yes, there's an element of, trusting things will pass. That also involves an element of surrender to the control we may be holding on to. And for many people, depending on how they're wired, that can be the hardest thing in the world or the easiest thing in the world. And me being a Scorpio, that is hard. That's really hard. So, I'm interested in listening to the other that is available to us. The connectedness through people is wonderful. And then there's also other. And I think that is like the most beautiful topic right now. So please, wherever you want to start with that, I'm all ears.
Yeah, well, you kind of in that question, you had a lot of really amazing things to unpack a little bit more, and so this idea of sitting with the uncomfortableness, or this idea of like radical acceptance of knowing right now I don't feel good, or right now I feel very low energy. Just that self-awareness is actually very important. So looking inward and knowing whether you have a heartbreak, or knowing whether you feel angry, or whether you feel sadness, or if you feel very light and happy and joyful. Like, it's that self-reflection, and self-reflection really is this acknowledgement of your energy. In life, we have energy that can drain us like a body battery when we're always consistently putting our energy or our focus or our attention to things that don't feel good or don't bring us joy. A great example is the news right now. Things out there when we're watching are there to kind of drain our energy. They're there to kind of make us feel like we're not safe, like we're not connected, like we're not, going to be okay. And that is really easy to fall into because we're such, connected beings. We want to feel connected to others, even if that connection feels like it's hurting us, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about other, and yes, Reiki is a discussion of energy and looking to see, prana energy, like going back to yoga, like life force energy. It's all around us, it's in us, and there's ample and abundance of it. However, sometimes when we're just kind of, thinking about our energy as, like kitchen sinks, or this idea of like a faucet, if we just have all this energy leaving us all the time, and if we're not aware of how to open up to receive energy, we're going to get depleted. We're going to be feeling very low. We're going to feel very, lethargic. And that's kind of this practice of energy. And yes, I'm a Reiki master. And I think that kind of goes to speak for my academic self, where I just love learning about everything. And so I'm out there learning about, shamanism. I'm out there learning about Reiki. I'm out there learning about yoga and just EMDR and brain stuff. So I'm kind of like, as much knowledge as I can get, I learn it. And this is kind of in that journey of recognizing that energy, whether it is science, whether it is, philosophy, whether it is, looking at different types of other, we know energy exists, and we know that energy can make us feel good or make us feel poor. So Reiki really is this self-study, self-practice of, number one, who am I connecting to and how is it moving through my body? We also can offer Reiki practices to others where we're able to kind of take what is abundant, which is the energy of the universe, and funnel it to others. Like kind of having this like tap on to kind of help others get back that energy who aren't able to open up to receive their own from the abundance that's in the universe. So there's a lot of kind of it's removing the logical brain, because we can't measure it. We can't prove it by science in this moment. We talk about Reiki, but there are a lot of benefits that we're starting to learn as well, whether it's looking at brain scans, and we're looking at body scans, and we're looking at our energy, our bodies heating up by sharing this practice or not. It's neat. It's out there, but it's something that is going to need a lot more research to kind of produce to people to understand.
So much juicy. Thank you.
It's a lot of, I wish I had more kind of clear answers for you, but this is the beauty in this all, there's no answer. And right now there's no easy kind of guidebook to understanding this all. And it really is a self-study, and it's really in something that's going to resonate with you individually. And so, speaking about energy, some people might be like, Reiki, what? That's not my kind of thing. Okay, well then go learn about, quantum physics, go learn about science, go learn about, brain scans, go learn about how we assess body and how we kind of, use up our energy within our body, knowing that, we have a lifespan, we have enough energy throughout the day, but we actually need sleep to kind of replenish this energy. Right. And so even not knowing how our bodies work, they work, not knowing how energy works, it works. You need to flip a light switch. The light comes on. We don't always know exactly the science behind it, but we believe it works because we see it. Reiki energy is not that easy to see, but people who take the time to sit down and feel it and experience it and go through a session, That's kind of the experiential learning that we need to start doing more of, right? People are always quick to say, no, that doesn't work, or no, it's not going to be the way to do it. Well, learn, try it for yourself. Experiential learning is also a research-based approach to learning. So go try things.
That's so fun. That's so fun. The other day I was having a chat with somebody about different others that can sometimes re-inspire us. Like you said, it comes through the self-study, right? We actually need to look in to access other or our connectedness to other. I say other to be inclusive because it may be religion for someone. Yeah. It may be gardening for somebody, right? Yeah. Connectedness. It's the same, different languages. And this person I was speaking to brought up the theory of, love as another language. This is something we can all feel. And so even though our terminologies like prana and energy are not yet being recorded visually just yet, like everybody knows what love feels like. They do. Love and awe were the two things that came in as emotions that everyone can say, I have felt that at some point. That for me, sometimes the language of love is energy. Do you see what I
love that? Yeah, no, I love that. You love it. Yeah. No, I think that actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because we could all relate to what that feels like to be in love. And that's something that, we can't right now pick a science experiment to kind of, duplicate or manipulate or change or kind of quantify or measure. But we all know what love is. It's a great example.
I think we're just going to have the phrase, I love that, in this whole podcast from now on. All right.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. I love that too, Cindy.
They often say like love is medicine, and kind of going back to this idea of like medicine and kind of looking at even therapy, right? Knowing that when you're looking at coping strategies or even ways to ground yourself and ways to switch your mood from feeling less than or not good enough or depression or, anxiety, is to think of things that you love. If we all were to think of like our family pet, or if we were to think of like someone that we love in our life or something that we love, that automatically changes our energy, our frequency, our feelings in our body. And so that's kind of a neat way to measure love then, right? Is if you're having something you love.
Start with love, everybody. It's the way to go, according to Dr. Cindy.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go there then. We did just mention like thinking about things. So tell us about a time where life didn't go to plan and yet it did turn out better than expected. What happened and how did it shape your trust with that process?
Well, and I think going back to this theme of love, right? This idea of sometimes the biggest heartbreaks or the biggest changes that we experience in love. At the moment, we don't understand it. We don't understand why it's happening to us. We often kind of think that it happens to us, not for us. A lot of, the big moments in life that I've had that I experienced, whether it wasn't getting a job that I really wanted to get, by not getting it, it actually opened up that space for a better job that had I taken the other job, I would have never got the opportunity to have a job that I absolutely love. Even looking to see I move a lot. I've moved across Canada. I'm originally from, a province called Ontario. I've moved to British Columbia. I've moved to Manitoba, and they've all been, school related and work related. But even this idea too of sometimes the big shifts happen and you're not really kind of knowing why or how or what's going to come, and kind of going back to trusting the unfolding, right? This idea of when the uncertainty happens, when the heartbreak happens, and or when a rejection happens. We often say rejection is a redirection. It really is. Sometimes life, it needs to be an experience. We need to have the ups and downs. We need to have the heartbreak in order to have the space for more love. I'm not sure if I'm actually answering your question, but I do think a lot of the heartbreak that I've ever experienced or the sadness has come in moments of something that I love not working out the way I planned it. And in that moment of it not working out, a bigger love unfolded, or a bigger moment of something that I actually wanted more, or I'm happy now with more so than I would have been initially. So trusting that there are better things coming. There's things that are always, shifting, changing. And if we're kind of stuck in how things are in one moment in time and we're not open to the change, we're then not open to having more abundance of love come in.
Do you know one thing that I know so many people in my community are struggling with right now is, because I hear you when you're talking about things like career, right? The transaction of that information coming in, oh, hey, sorry, we're not giving you this job. It's quite fast. It comes in. We don't have a choice. It happens. So I really liked that you were like, sometimes we think things happen to us. Let's talk about the other way around. When we need to make a choice to let something go, and it's got to be on us. It's like, it's not coming in to our field. We've got to let it go. That bit is there are so many layers. It takes time. Some people are professional cut and runners, and I love those people. I'm like, how do you do that? Tell me how do you do that? And I'm one of these people that I really struggle to release fully, because at one point I loved that thing. Right? I love that thing, but I know it's got to go, or I know it's got to change, or I can sometimes feel in my energy field. That's language I use. For anyone that doesn't use that language, other words I could say is, I can just feel there's something else for me, and it's trying to reach me, and I'm blocking it by choosing this thing. Yeah. Do you have anything to say about that bit? Because that's a real, I think that's where a lot of people get really, they're chewing on that letting go piece of whatever for a long time sometimes.
Yeah. And I've been that person. So, everything that I've learned in school, or everything that I've come across in knowledge, when it's something that happens to us, it doesn't feel the same as, hey, wait a minute, well, someone else could do it that way. Why can't I? Or as you're saying, people who can kind of cut and run, that worked for some people, but not for everyone. And so I kind of also was holding on to something that wasn't serving me. And someone asked me, if you can kind of see yourself in 6 months, and if everything was exactly the same, and this is kind of, is this what you want for yourself? And if you can do 6 months, okay, well, what about 2 years? And then the exact same scenario was as it was in 2 years from now, would that be your happiest life? Do you think you'd be the happiest you are? And sometimes we kind of like stick through things that aren't comfortable momentarily, or we could do it today, or we can do it for another week. But when you actually look at the bigger picture, and you actually recognize, like, wait a minute, I have one life. I have one life to kind of explore, to fall in love, to fall, into a great career, to kind of, do the things that make me feel good, and to feel like you're serving a purpose to the world. If what you're doing right now is good enough for today, is it good enough for you in 6 months? Is it good enough for you in a year? And is it good enough for you in 2 years? If nothing changed? And that's kind of a good question, and where we actually need to look in the mirror and turn inward and kind of figure out where, hey, is this serving my body? Is this serving my soul? Is this serving my mental capacity? Like, am I learning? Am I thriving? Am I growing in this scenario? They often say, when a flower is not growing, it's not something wrong with the flower. It's kind of what's around it. Right. And so, are we in this environment that is helping us thrive? And if it's not, then, self-reflecting, are we going to then sacrifice how amazing we can be just to feel comfortable or safe or secure? Sometimes we'll say yes, and that will maybe last for a week or two. But over time, when we start to kind of not say yes to ourselves and we say yes to others, that really is saying no to ourselves. And eventually it's going to get where we're resenting others, or we're resenting ourselves for not doing what we know we need to do. And so looking at the long-term outcome is a really great way to kind of assess where you're at today. And if today what you're doing is not really working for you, there's tons of great strategies out there. I've really dove into like Mel Robbins, and she's just a great person to kind of have some great life hacks. And one of them is like that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just do what you need to do, right? Not overthinking things, or the idea of figuring out kind of what lights your soul on fire, and knowing that no one's going to do the work for you besides yourself. And so if you're sitting in a situation waiting for someone to give you the best job, or waiting for, your partner to be better, or waiting for, whatever you're waiting for, no one's going to give it to you. And that's kind of the part too, where we need to actually recognize that in the next 6 months, no one's going to give you what you want unless you start to do things for yourself. And it might be a small step forward, or it might be a big step, but no one's going to do it unless you are. And sometimes, taking that Band-Aid off is hard. But then it's kind of like, what's going to help us get there? And whether it's a friend, whether it's, reaching out to a professional, whether it's to, engage in yoga practices that are going to kind of help us find stillness. We're often overwhelming ourselves by being so busy that we don't stop and reflect on what's around us. And so I think I keep answering your questions, really long answers, but hopefully it's circling back a little bit to, if we know that we're in a situation that isn't serving us, we're only hurting ourselves by not moving out of it. We're not, no one's going to do it for us. And if they do, another word of advice that I was given is, sometimes it's better to like step away from a situation before it implodes. Right? If we have the power to step away, it's probably a little bit better than for it to blow up and us to be like, oh, I didn't see that coming, because we did see it coming.
Yes. I have to say, the way you answer your questions offers options for people, which I really enjoy. So I know you're like, I hope this is answering your question. I'm like, Dr. Cindi, you've given us like 8 different answers that 8 different people will enjoy.
Wonderful. Well, this also speaks to my ADHD brain. So this is kind of something where, yes, I like therapy, academics, and yoga because I need to have it all the time. And my brain's going like 10 different spots. So if anyone out there has ADHD and think that they can't be something amazing, you can.
I love that. Yes. I love that. Here we go again. I love that.
But doesn't it feel good to say I love that? Like that's actually another thing where we're actually like nourishing our soul by finding what we love and actually like saying it. That's contagious, right? Smiling is contagious. Loving something is contagious. And so, yeah, let's just keep loving.
So my next question, like we've kind of covered it. It was really, I asked it without really reading the next question so clearly, because obviously I was so like already there. The question was about clinging to certainty. This one, I was going to ask you as a professional, how do you guide others to soften into the unknown without feeling like they're losing their grip? Because we talked about the people who love control, that helps them feel safe. That's pretty normal for many humans. But there are people who they really need to feel in the driver's seat. And, I get it, because I was talking to another friend the other day. This is how my life goes. I have all these like friend conversations, and we were talking about the power of prayer or the power of intention or, wishing, hoping, that sort of thing. This outward projection of what we want in the world. But, like you said, it doesn't happen if we don't participate in our life. We cannot ask the universe to remove XYZ without us doing anything. Do you know what I mean? Because what usually happens is some sort of implode down the line because the universe has been saying, hey, time to go, and we don't. And then, okay, it's really time to go and we cannot avoid it now. And why do we want to get there when we could participate? So I bring that forward because that links to those people who love to stay in control or feel like they have a grip. And so I'd love to know anything you have to say about that for those people.
There's just a great kind of story that I keep having repeating in my head as you're saying this. And it's about a frog. And, if we were to put a frog in a big pot of water, and if the water was, a nice cool temperature, the frog would just have the best day ever. However, if we put this big pot on the oven and we slowly turn up the heat, the frog will continue to swim, as the temperature slowly gets hotter and hotter. And this is kind of a metaphor or this idea of life. If the water around us keeps getting hotter and we keep getting acclimatized to it, what happens to the frog is that it won't actually jump out of the boiling water. It'll just die. It'll actually just let itself get to the point where it no longer is able to survive in that environment. And that's reflective of people. And we often think that, yes, we're in control of a situation, but we forget to keep in mind that things change. Things always change around us. And there is no constant. Whether that means there's no constant with our jobs or our relationships or our friendships or even like our health and wellness, right? How things are today, they'll never be the same tomorrow. And that's kind of where we forget that we can't cling to certainty because there's no such thing as certainty. If the frog thinks that by being in the water, it's going to be safe for forever because it's in the same space forever, it's not. And that's kind of also indicative of humans and our lives. So people who have this need for control, those are people who actually kind of are very tense and stressed and very kind of a little bit of not living in a real world, right? Because we can't ever control anyone else around us. And kind of going back to Mel Robbins and let them theory, right? We can't control people around us. We can't control what people do or say. And we have our little circle of control, which has what we say, what we do, and how we act. And that's all we can control. And so when we're talking about certainty, as long as we're acting in alignment with who we are as a person, and as long as we're having our values and our beliefs and our authenticity re-examined by ourselves over time, we can't really control external things, but we can control how we react to them. Right. And this is kind of where, rolling with whatever life throws at us. If we have that trust in the unfolding, we can roll with whatever is uncertain in our life, because we know that, hey, you know what? I've survived, we'll say I'm 37 today. I've survived 37 years of my life. I can survive whatever is going to be thrown at me, because evidence would support that I have. I'm going to survive, whether it is losing an employment or losing a loved one or losing, whether it is through death or just like natural stages of life, because I have faith in who I am, because I have faith in my values, my ethics, how I respond as a human being. And that's all we can be certain of. So if we're looking for some type of certainty, it's investing in ourselves. It's turning inward to knowing who we are, because at the end of the day, all we're going to have is ourselves. And that's something that we need to kind of also recognize, and kind of turning it back to that question about the collective. And, if we are all on this journey together, the self-awareness, self-reflection, self-study is really where we all need to be. And that's not selfish. That really is this idea of like self-caring. That is this idea of, if we know that what we've done in our life is going to be something that we can sleep well with, that's a good addition to the world. That's a good place to kind of know that your tomorrow is going to be as good as your today is, because you're showing up the best way you can. Mm-hmm. So people who are very clinging to wanting the certainty, you're not going to get it, but you're going to get it if you look inward to yourself.
Mm-hmm. But can I play a cheeky?
Yes.
I can guarantee these people what they will be getting. And Cindi, raise your hand if this applies to you. I'm going to ask a question to our listeners. Who's done hard things before? Raise your hand. So that's the evidence Cindi was talking about. And that self-study, you absolutely get that. You have done hard things before. You can do it again.
Yeah.
Probably done harder things before to be able to deal with this one.
Yeah.
Just different situation this time. So that's a certainty for sure. But the rest, as Cindi said, get still, self-study, and it's all in there for you.
I want to say I love that again, because I do love that. But this idea of, yes, like we underestimate our ability to get through things, and we forget that our emotions, this is another great thing that I often tell clients, is like feelings are like farts. Feelings are big.
I have not had this one. Go for it.
So feelings, just like farts, are big and stinky, right? If you hold a fart in, if you hold a feeling in, it eventually hurts your stomach and it doesn't feel very comfortable. When you let it out, it's kind of this big stinky thing. But what happens to farts?
They disperse into neutral space.
Yes. And so just like farts, our feelings eventually level off. And knowing that whenever we feel really sad or hurt or mad or happy, the lifespan as a feeling really is only about like 40 seconds. If we just kind of breathe through it, if we accept the feeling, if we kind of acknowledge this feeling of whatever that feeling is, it eventually goes away. Feelings go away. The problem is sometimes when we feel a feeling, we look for all the evidence to confirm that this feeling is going to last forever. So we bring up all the past things that have felt the same way. You get your heart broken. You think of all the times you've been rejected, or all the jobs you never got, or all the times that you just didn't feel good in your own skin. And we kind of give ourselves this gasoline to light that feeling fart on fire. And then it lasts longer. But if we just call it what it is, let it pass, we're going to feel better about things. So feelings really are like farts. And this idea that this too shall pass, going back to that thing, but knowing that, we can get through it. We can get through any feeling we're going to have. We can get through anything because we've already got there. We are the living proof, just like you said.
And I must come back to, I don't know if you meant that pun. After feelings are like farts and this too shall pass.
I did not, but that's brilliant.
Cindi, what was your favorite book to write that you've written? Does it have that in there?
You know what's funny? So I have two books that I've written, and this is a nice little segue, but one of them is called Finding Your Purpose. and it's a guidebook to a more meaningful life. That does not have the feelings are like farts in it. However, the Find Your Wellness actually does. It actually has a statement around like your feelings are like farts, and it unpacks exactly what we just unpacked right now.
I love that. So if anyone wants to enjoy that for the rest of their days, please head to the links in the show notes where you can find the link to that book, and you will have a nice giggle and nice memory of what Dr. Cindi said.
Yeah. And actually, as we're kind of talking about the self-care book, like the guidebook to self-care, it does talk a lot about what to do with life. It throws you uncertainty. It talks a lot about when things don't go as planned. It gives so many great strategies where, if you're having a really rough day, or if you're struggling with, low mood or anxiety or depression or trauma or anything really, there's some strategies that are just like really great to just do. One of them is coming out of Peter Levine's research around shaking it out. And this does tie back to yoga, and it ties back to how I've, definitely found such value in yoga through mental health is shaking it out. Animals, they all shake out, when they're kind of overstimulated. You look at a deer, it shakes it off. You look at, dogs shake it off after going water. Humans do not shake it off. But there's research that shows there's such value in us shaking things off. And so whether you've had a really crummy day, go home and just shake your entire body and jump around, smile, laugh. Like those are things that really do help. And then, as I've said, smile and laugh. Research shows that there's muscles in our face that when we're smiling, trigger our brain to release that happy hormone or release that happy chemical. So our body can really bring us joy, and it can switch our mood when we give it the opportunity to. There's more life hacks like that in those books, but just, it's my academic self really is about sharing what I learn with others. And that's kind of why I am an instructor, why I do teach, at universities, why I do therapy, and why I do teach yoga is that I just want to share everyone to feel better, because we all deserve to feel better. We all deserve a good, happy life. Whether it's shaking, whether that's from smiling, whether that's from thinking about feelings as farts. Is what? I
said whether it's farting.
Farting. I love it. Yes.
I have a spin-off question for you. What is the therapy or discovery in science or body work or energy work that you are most excited about right now? What are you like, whoa, that is mind-blowing?
Yes. So I've just done some research and we have the results. And so like I said, I keep learning all different theories because I absolutely love learning, but I am trained, certified in EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's a big, long, fancy word. EMDR really is that thing you see where the eyes move left to right, but there's a lot more to it than just that. And that's something that by exploring, that we call it bilateral stimulation, meaning like left, right, left, right. That's kind of the secret sauce in EMDR. And what that secret sauce is, bilateral stimulation can also be done by walking, can be done by running, it can be done by dancing, it can be done by drumming, it can be done by, having music go in one ear and in the other. So bilateral really is the back and forth. And if you're looking at like culture, so many cultures have been dancing as ways to kind of heal. So many cultures have done different things that we're kind of, science is catching up to now. But EMDR is so amazing for me to offer to clients because it's not a drug and it's not something that you need to do forever. And it really is hacking into what we do every single night with our REM sleep. So rapid eye movement is what we all do when we're in that deeper state of sleep to help kind of clear out the brain from those big emotions or the big traumas or the life events in your day to day. Every single day when we sleep, our brain cleans our brain out of the things that we don't need, or it puts it into kind of different files so that we can retrieve them later. When we're not getting good REM sleep is often when we have a trauma or we're feeling upset or we can't sleep, and that kind of just this snowballs into a bigger issue. So with EMDR, it's awake. It's a way to do awake what we would do in our sleep. And it's a natural healing of the body. Looking at our body, and this is something that I promote a lot of, is that, if we get cut, our body heals itself, right? It kind of, finds a way to kind of put that skin back together. When we get sick, our body, fights off the illness. Anytime that our body needs to show up for us, it does. And knowing that, trauma is part of life, right? we have a lifespan, and often we're going to lose people, whether it's our parents or whether it's people in our lives or our dogs or our cats. Like that's part of life. And so our body actually has a way to help us deal with trauma. And that really is through sleep is kind of the best way, right? If we're getting enough sleep, you're doing that rapid eye movement already. But if you're not a good sleeper, if you're kind of at to the point where like you've had a lot of trauma and you haven't really been able to process it, rapid eye movement through EMDR is a fantastic way to heal. And I cannot tell people enough about how amazing it is. Luckily, you are hearing it a bit more in the media. You know, people are kind of reporting their experience with it. And they're very credible people who are reporting, which I love. But it does help you heal, and it doesn't need a medication. And it's not something that you're going to have to, you know, live with for the rest of your life. And when I keep saying people deserve to feel happy and healthy and loved and just safe, we do. And our body and our brain want us to feel that way too. And so yeah, it's talk therapy is wonderful. You know, we have such things as cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like looking at our thoughts and kind of finding ways to make our thoughts more helpful and less intrusive or less triggering. EMDR is kind of incorporating our thoughts into kind of our experiences and helping us let go of the things that aren't helping us. It desensitizes big emotions. So if people kind of keep getting re-triggered and keep having really big emotions, it's a way that we kind of hack into our brain to let those emotions settle, which is really cool.
I love that you brought this up today. I had an experience on a mountain. I'm here in the north of Scotland. I won't go into it because I want to respect other people's experiences. We don't want to be triggering anyone today. Let's just keep it light and lovely, even though we've gone deep. I know we've gone deep. But as I was having this experience on the mountain, which essentially led to me needing to come down because my body would not let me go forward anymore. All the way up the mountain, I was having these mini experiences from other experiences. And they honestly, if you're not watching the screen, to our podcast listeners, my hands are coming together to make a triangle to form this mountain shape. And that really was the experience of the feelings, is they were starting at the bottom of the mountain and they just came to a pinnacle point where my body was asked, stop now, we don't feel safe. And what came into my mind was, I need to do this therapy now. If this isn't the clearest sign that I need to try this style of therapy, because I have also heard it's so releasing, and the number of sessions is dependent on the person, but it can work very fast. Yeah. So I'm sold. I love that you bring it up today when it was already on my mind.
Really? So yeah. That's serendipity in life, right? No circumstances.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I always love to delve into someone who is in academia and research and is just interested about what's like super exciting right now for them. So thank you so much. Thank you. Before we ask the final question, which is how do you live your yoga, I have one question before. You've touched on a few things you like to do. I would love to know what keeps you anchored. So any daily rituals, mantra, practices, what do you love to do?
Oh, yes, that's a great question. So I do yoga every day, all the time. That's something that I am very high energy. I do spin. So I often will spin and then I'll do yoga, and I will do self-study where at night I will reflect. I have mantras. When I wake up, I do a gratitude practice. Just kind of I smudge a lot of the time too, acknowledging that sometimes I keep energy that's not mine. I do practices where I release energy that I know is not mine and I call back my energy. And so all these things really are internal acknowledgements of energy and sharing of energy. And sometimes we give energy and take energy. Also, this idea of acknowledging my body needs to move. I do count my steps, not because I care exactly how much I do it, because it keeps me accountable. When I'm looking at my watch and I've only done 2,000 steps and it's like 4 p.m., that's a sign for me, because being a counselor, we sit a lot. So it's a sign for me to get up and get walking. I often, when I'm outside, I take time away from my phone. So I leave my phone in the building when I go for a walk. I'll take the time to smell what I smell. I'll see what I see. I'll kind of try to engage my senses as I'm taking this as self-study practice of walking. Mindfulness is huge. Mindfulness is not having a mind full of everything. It's this idea of trying to let things go. And people will find different strategies. And sometimes this idea of maybe yoga is not everyone's thing, or maybe running is not everyone's thing, or maybe people don't like being outside in the sunshine. Not everyone's going to have the same thing, and that's important important to know. And it really is like to self-study what is yours. And so this is kind of, another thing that I absolutely love is working with people and having that moment of people leaving and feeling at ease with themselves as well. So I have a lot of things that kind of add to my wellness. And I think it's my career. It is something that I would do for free. If I ever won the lottery, I would definitely be offering free sessions and just kind of continuing on with what I'm doing. Yoga is definitely something that I feel wholeheartedly has changed my life. It's slowed me down and it's really grounded me. And academics, I love learning. So never, if people are kind of hearing one side of something and they're going with it, I always say, be critical of everything you learn, everything you hear, research things, because there's so much misinformation out there, but there's so much cool information out there.
Yes, exactly. And so how do you live your yoga? That's our final question.
I'm just going to end that with saying, I love that. That's how I live my yoga, just by sharing love and by meeting people like yourself, by taking chances in life, by having that faith, like trusting the unfolding. It is more than just what happens on a mat. It is how you live your life, right? And this idea of finding the stillness and the faith of even knowing the mat was going to have your back, right? Whatever you're doing, the mat is going to be there for you, and thinking about that as a metaphor in life, right? There's always something that's there for you. And that's yourself. And that's kind of going inward and going back to it when you're sitting on a mat. Those experiences that you're having are real. That's life. That's your present moment. And love that, live that. And that's how I live my yoga.
So yummy. So yummy. Can we get a t-shirt with that on it?
I wish we should. I love that. Feelings are like farts. And then all the rest of the stuff we said today.
Do you know what? I think the bestseller would be, I love that.
I love that. I agree. I market that right now. Copyright that.
Oh, this was
here
amazing.
First.
That's it. Everyone heard it here first. But please go into the world and keep saying it.
Yes. Get the statement of 2026.
Oh, this was so much fun. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I know it's late there. It was like 10 p.m. there now?
Oh, you're so sweet. I am a night owl. I have been forever. I'm actually getting into an earlier owl as I approach my mid-30s. So that's interesting. But Mark at Your Yoga Flow, beautiful Mark, he always says whenever we meet, oh, it's okay. You're a night owl, aren't you? And I'm like, I am. He's in Canada. I'm in the UK. Everything's later here. But yeah, I'm totally happy with it. And I come more alive at night.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I was like, I could meet earlier. Like, I'm like, okay.
It was honestly so sweet, but I was like, hun, I'm there.
I love that.
9 p.m. is when we forget.
You have to come to Canada and visit one day. I definitely think we all live in BC and you should just come to BC. It'll be so fun.
Oh, it's so overdue. It's so overdue. And I wonder how many of the listeners are also in BC. That would be interesting to know too.
Right? That would be so much fun to do some type of a meetup like that.
Yeah, I know. Future.
You heard it here. Just kidding. I love that.
Free t-shirts for everyone. Oh, okay. Well, thank you again. I think that's about a wrap. But everybody, please, in the show notes, many links for you to explore. Also, a research link. Do you want to say a little more about that?
Oh my gosh. Yes, we forgot about that. So I did research on incorporating yoga, like a little bit of yoga movement with the power poses and kind of just finding ways to open up. A lot of them were strengthening poses, and I incorporated that with bilateral stimulation, which is what the EMDR stands for, incorporating that with hypnotherapy and a little positive psychology. So I did this amazing study that initially it was a research idea, which I had published, which is available and it's free access. So the link, it's free. It's an article. It's really cool to check it out. We did the research, which I'm so grateful that I was able to do with the support of Yorkville University and our ethics board. The research did show some amazing results. And right now the results are in pending for publication. So I don't want to give away too much of the results, but it definitely is something that I will be doing more workshops, incorporating the idea framework for healing and yoga and incorporating, counseling.
One word. Whoa.
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 It was really cool.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a whole thing. We'll have to meet again when it's released and I can tell you more about it.
Yes, please. Round 2 on the podcast. Absolutely. So please, everybody, check out that. That sounds amazing. Wow. And I love how there was so many things linking in. And
going back to like, it's all connected. Everything we're doing right now is connected, whether it's like therapy, whether it's movement, whether it's like smiling, whether it's, anyways, there's a lot of connections in the world. And going back to the Reiki, it's all connected.
And then what else have we got in the show notes? So we have the books. Please go and check that out. I know that they were big, heartfelt projects for you. So
fun.
Yeah.
The way to share myself with people, if they can't come to counseling, pick up a book. It has what we would do in a session, but it actually is like a lot of my entire education is in the books. So you get it for a condensed version of what I spend a lot more money on.
And what a gift. Oh, okay. So thank you so much again. It's a goodbye from me.
For now.
See you on another podcast very soon, Cindi.
Or in Canada. But yes, take care. Have a good one. Get some sleep later.
Thank you. Bye.